Hey, welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Tony Dudzik, Pick Guardian.
Jared Brandon Wound Pickups.
Mike Trombley, Native Audio.
Hello, Mike.
Hey,
Mikey's back.
Band's back together.
That is right. And this is Todd Novak. We're super thrilled that you are listening to our show, the Guitar Knobs podcast. And Mike, as the semi-visiting guest type person, what do we do on this show here, buddy?
We just talk about gear, something.
Stuff.
What is it? What are we?
We're the champion of the boutique builders.
Oh, we're the champion of boutique builders.
Thank you. Oh man, how did you? That just flowed right off your tongue there.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah. So we interview boutique builders of guitars, amps, pedals, and other type of gear. We also talk to influencers in the industry, people who are making it move and shake.
We have learning episodes.
We have learning episodes, the 101s. Those are quite popular.
That's right.
We have one of these people on the line today. Who can guess what it is? I don't know, but he's going to tell us. Tell us who you are, buddy.
Hi, my name's Rand Anderson, and I'm with Mu-Tron.
Mu-Tron pedals.
I love Mu-Tron.
Yeah, Jared is like...
I'm not a Mu-Tron expert, but I do love Mu-Tron.
He's got a lot of Mu-Tron.
I do.
And we're going to call it Mu-Tron the whole episode.
Mu-Tron. That's going to be difficult for me, but I'm going to do it.
Rand was kind enough. We had a great call this past week, and he seems like a super awesome chap. We met him actually at NAMM briefly, and we had a good time. So we said we need to get you on the show. So let's do this. I'm super excited to hear the four on the floor for this guy too. And I need to say thank you to Rode Microphones for supplying our microphones that we are talking on right now.
The Rodecaster Pro.
That's right. The
These are
Rodecaster
nice.
Pro, the big machine, the big colorful machine here that's doing our thing.
I like that.
This is making everything happen, and we're still getting kind of getting it warm, getting it massaged, making it one of our own. Our old crazy jalopy rig is still here. It is not undone yet in the event of an emergency.
The power is on. I see the lights shining.
Yes, but we are really loving this new Rode machine. And if you are interested at all in getting into podcasting yourself or even using it to record your band, honestly, I'm probably going to take this home and record the band.
Oh, no, you're not.
Oh, yes, I am.
Oh, no, you're not.
Oh, no, you're not.
That's a misuse of company stuff.
Yeah.
That's under the contract.
But it's an incredibly affordable way to get into recording things. So thank you to Rode for providing that for us.
You should, because it would familiarize yourself with a little more.
Yeah, it's super good. Okay, but aside from that, I do have a couple of announcements. One of them, which absolutely delighted me this week. I got a big package from a big package of stuff. Let me clarify that.
I don't think so.
From Champion Lecky, our buddy Wooly at Champion Lecky. Wooly! He sent a whole bunch of swag for everybody. So when we send out our Patreon stuff, you're going to get more Champion Lecky stuff.
Excellent.
I mean, his stuff is awesome, but if you met him in person,
we're going to have him back.
So funny.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Now, a long time ago, he does these amazing sketches and stuff, and he puts them on the pedals and everything. And we said, hey, man, would you send us one of your scrap sketches? He sent us like an entire packet full of not just his sketches. These are his actual drawings and concepts for all of his pedals.
Oh, it even has the drill holes.
With
Schematics?
Schematics.
Whoa, keep Mikey away from those.
Like a
Keep me
schematic
away.
for a special layer.
This is huge.
That's pretty cool.
It's cool. Okay, so Champion Lecky stuff is really cool, but like honestly, like that made me feel like $1 million because he was like, here, you guys can have this stuff, and this is his own personal stuff. This is what he built his company on.
It's like behind the scenes, man.
It's really amazing. So I'm going to try to. I got to figure out what to do with this proper.
Can we make a coloring book?
That would we might be able to do that.
Yeah, we could copy each one.
I want to work something out so patrons can benefit from this too.
Oh yeah.
But anyways, I wanted to share this letter because this will give you a clue if you're not familiar with Wooly. He sent this letter, and on the back it says, super legit letter from a well-organized small business that was all crossed out and all kinds of stuff. And it says at the top of the page, official Champion Lecky headed paper from the offices of Champion Lecky.
And this is on a yellow and blue ruled, tear out kind of sheet.
Yeah, it looks like something from Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I'm not gonna lie.
It's like on college staff or whatever you call it.
So it says there's a spot and it says today's date, which he doesn't put anything at, and also address, also missing the address. It says, "Hi knobs, sorry for sending this stuff so late. The Champion Lecky way of doing things involves waiting until people think I'm dead or they're totally forgotten that I exist. Then I spring up as if out of nowhere. And everyone is all surprised and they totally forget about the fact that I've just been super slow. Surprise!" He says, "Tees, magnets, hard sticks, and stickers are for you guys. Badges and woozy stickers are for throwing at people from your cars or whatever. Lots of love, Wooly." Doggone it, we like that guy so much, and thank you.
Framing that letter.
Oh yeah, for sure, and really grateful, Wooly, for sending that stuff. You guys. He's got a new one out called the Woozy, which Demos in the Dark has been doing a lot of work with. So I would highly recommend checking that pedal out. It's mighty cool. I just want to pull up two more things. In a recent episode, we mentioned how people are that are listening to the show are like branching out and building all kinds of stuff, and it's pretty amazing. So one of those things was Tim Novak. No relation because, well, it's not really the same name at all. But anyways, so he's been a great supporter of us, and he said he tagged us and sent me. He says, "Working on my first PCB. It took me over a month to design this build and this bad boy, and I finally did it. It's a combination CMOS fuzz and overdrive, and it sounds amazing. Now to get it boxed up. A big thanks to the Guitar Knobs. Your interviews of builders who have started from nothing really inspired me to test my limits and see how far I can take this. Love the show." So
that's pretty killer.
It's rad. He was like, you know what? Maybe I can do this. And look what he did it. Check that out.
The build looks pretty solid too. I like the ribbon cable.
I like that too.
It's clean.
And then we also have another. You've probably heard us mention Zach J. Wright many times at the end of the show as a supporter of the show, as an executive
producer. Gets his name right on the thing.
Yeah, that's right. He was basically had to step away from Patreon for a little bit. He said, "Todd, I will be back. My business partner and I cut out all our Patreon to save money to finish off our guitar building shop. We fully intend to be back and supporting under our company name, York Guitars. It is our dream to be a guest on the show, eventually talking about our Ohio-made guitars and pedals. We love you guys on the show." That's pretty amazing. I love that.
Yeah, man. I'm looking forward to
that. Is pretty
killer.
So,
it's gonna be cool.
Yeah. Anyways, so
what was the guitars?
That was really neat.
What was the company name?
York Guitars. So be looking out for York Guitars in the future, everybody.
I'll be checking.
They also make peppermint patties.
They do.
York peppermint patties. Hey.
All right. We're going to discuss what's going on in our music worlds this week in the guitar business. Jared's got his hand just raised super big.
Yeah, I want to be picked. I talked about the JCM 800 a few episodes ago, and it was the 50 watter, and the 50 watter was an older one. So it was like an early 80s, I think, mid 80s. And I took that back to my buddy in Fremont, and to me, it just didn't have enough like bass going on. I don't know. It just wasn't dark enough for me. So he said, "Well, why don't you take this 100-watt JCM 800 reissue?" And I said, "Well, what's the difference between a reissue and an original?" He said, "Not much with the circuitry, except for there's an effects loop on the back." And he said there, maybe there was a few improvements, but really no big difference. So anyway, I bring it home, plug it in, and I think the wattage change really just. I think it just kind of changed overall how it sounded.
Doing at the 100 watts?
Yeah. So I got the 100 watter.
Yeah.
And thinking, before I was like, I don't need no 100 watts, but I'm wrong. I was wrong. Like, I really like this 800. I just love it.
Are you talking head or combo?
Just the head. And,
just the head.
Yeah, just the head. And I've got it plugged through, just a JCM 800 cab with, vintage 30s. So.
Right.
So it's, they sound much better getting pushed by 100 watts rather than the 50. So I'm going to probably stick with that amp.
100 water.
Yeah, 100 watt. It's a reissue.
Okay. Good thing you got that aux.
Okay.
Right. Actually, it's, with the volume control, the gain and the main, it's not bad,
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not twice as loud. It's
right.
just,
If you really want to crank it up and get that, I don't know, because when you use the aux, you're not pushing the speaker cap and you're not getting the effect of getting the speaker cap pushed. Mm-hmm. So I'll just turn it up and just kind of go behind it.
And the aux, for those who don't know what that is, just really briefly.
it's a real high end, call it a power attenuator. I mean, and output power attenuator, not.
Okay.
Yeah, you can
AC
crank
it.
your amp up and not have it blaring out your speakers, and you can kind of get the benefits of a turned up amp. However, I think part of the whole experience having a high power amplifier is the sound of those speakers being pushed.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But
Definitely.
Another good thing about the aux is there's a speaker simulation, so you can just not have a cab at all. And the reason I bought that is for shows and whatnot, so people can listen to pickups and through amps that they respect without bothering the other vendors around us.
Right.
Nice.
Let's hear from our buddy Rand. What's going on in your music world?
It was Recone. I dropped a bunch of speakers off at right at NAMM, actually, the spots by there. So I just picked them all up.
Awesome.
So I'm ripping apart cabinets and amps and putting them all in and switching stuff around.
What speaker shop are you talking about?
Well, this is Bao. He worked at Orange County.
I was going to say Orange County I'm familiar with, but
now they're called Speaker Repair Pros. So he was kind of the guy doing everything there.
Oh, cool.
So he went over. He's got his own thing going. He's got a one of 3 in existent magnetizing machines. So
Wow.
And knows probably more about some of the speakers than the manufacturers. So
I love those people, man. I just love
Yeah,
them.
right.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
So apparently, with what he's telling me, there was no such thing ever as a JBL 16 ohm, although they were marked that way, that they weren't actually 16 ohms.
were they all 15s or?
No, they were all 8s.
Really?
They were all 8 ohm speakers, but they just said 16 ohm for some odd reason.
Fraud.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fake. Lawsuit.
I don't know. I think it's cool. I mean, when you actually ohm out a 16 ohm or an 8 ohm, they're always a little under anyway.
Yeah, well,
So these are the 120s, so they're the vintage ones. I don't know what about, modern stuff for that, but
Yeah.
Interesting.
good to know info.
I
Yes.
reckon so. But he had a bunch of cool stuff for sale, Macintosh speakers and lots of different variants and that.
Neato.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to see what other kind of broken stuff people are fixing. As what's out in the marketplace and what might not be working, what, these touring guys are using. And
Yeah. Dig it, man. Very cool. Mike, what's going on in your music world?
So I guess I'll come back with a report. I know last time I was in here, I was talking about the DSL-20, the Marshall. Mm-hmm. Well, good report. It sounds good now.
That's good.
Yay! I know. And I'm actually running it through my 212 inch Jensen's of the twin reverb. So
Really?
I'm just hooking the speakers into that output there for the DSL-20. But I found that I actually just run this thing on the high gain channel. And I pretty much keep gain at about like 11 o'clock, and then I just mess with the volume. But I found that just by adjusting the volume on my guitar, I can go anywhere between like clean to high gain just by the volume. So I've been running it like that for probably the past month and a half.
That's like,
it sounds
basically like
I
old
know.
school style.
Yeah, exactly. And it sounds so good. And that also has the effects loop. So that's been really good, as far as like messing around with, my pedals, doing a lot of, just testing around with them.
Yeah. Very cool.
So the DSL-20 is rocking.
Nice.
Yes.
Mighty fine. Tony.
Yes.
What's
Well,
going on
I've
in your
got 3 things, 2 of which are related.
You only get to say one.
So
Yeah, about
no,
one.
I'm gonna go with all three because I can.
Do
First
it.
of all, I scored some really cool Rogan Brothers knobs. They're about an inch and a half around, and they're black, and they've got like this a silver pointer on them. So
Can we say that's
cool.
like the classic Rickenbacker style?
Well, it's not exactly. That's how I stumbled onto these.
Okay.
They're not quite the Rickenbacker style. They're a little smaller, and they've got a silver point on them, but it's like a giant arrow.
Yeah.
And they're from probably the late 60s, early 70s. And I got 9 of them for like $50, which is
that a good
steal.
deal?
Well, they're usually about $10 a piece.
Oh,
So I'm pretty stoked about those because I won't use them. I might use them on some projects, but I just
You'll figure it out.
They're just really cool looking. It's kind of Star Trek-y looking.
so you're not going to put them on a guitar or anything?
Yeah, I will.
You're going to put them in your.
I'm going to put them on.
your
I'm going to put
museum?
them on a native audio pedal.
Oh yeah, that'd be perfect.
I'm on a chest of drawers.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the draws. And then the two things. So I was doing a lot of trolling on DHgate, and we've talked about this in the past. I've picked up a couple of things on there. It's kind of the Chinese Amazon, I guess you would say. And they've got some really incredibly inexpensive guitars. I think last we talked,
It is shocking. It's just downright shocking.
and it's. I think we were talking in the past about some of the clear Ampeg style
Right.
plexi guitars. Dan Armstrong's.
Yeah.
And so I ended up getting one of those. I've been very happy with it, had it set up, but I'm a Rickenbacker fan, as many of you know, and I found once you are on there a while, you kind of figure out the nomenclature because they can't really say Rickenbacker,
Right.
But they've got
Schmickenschmacher?
but they've got all kinds of things. So this was some cherry burst jazz guitar, and if you look at the photos, it's like a Rickenbacker 360F, which is kind of an unusual guitar that Rickenbacker made in the 50s and 60s, and it was. It's basically like a Gretsch shape, a single cut Gretsch, but it has a flat top and bottom. So they had one of these, and of course I saw it. I had to buy it.
Boy.
Oh gosh.
And
It's like $89.
no, it was a little more than that. But shipped from China was like just a hair over $300.
Very cool. What's the color on it?
It's a cherry burst or fire glow, whatever
Okay.
you want to call it. It's typical,
Sure.
typical Rickenbacker thing. And then I was looking for the proper tailpiece, which is we've talked about. I got a 12-string tailpiece from Winfield, but it turns out there was a guy in Argentina that has really good prices on essentially the same types of things, and one step better, it turns out he is actually a customer of mine who has bought a guard or two over the years. So it worked out really well. I got a really cool, it's called a long tailpiece, trapeze tailpiece, and we worked out a really good deal. And so by the
Got
time
all the things.
I got the stuff is coming.
Nice, man.
Another busy week at Pick Guardian.
Very good.
Wheeling and dealing.
Projects.
How about you, Todd?
I had most of my week. We had a gig last Saturday for Record Store Day. That's dating this probably a little bit. So but that's cool. And that was really fun. And can I? Let's see. I had my cousin. I feel like he's my nephew because he's so young, but he's actually my cousin. He said, "Hey, I'm going to be looking for a new guitar," and so he started asking me about it. He said, "I went to Guitar Center," and I said, "What's a good starter guitar?" And they handed him a $400 Epiphone Les Paul. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Let's talk about this. So that's really fun. I love shopping for other people, like guitar stuff.
Yeah.
And so it was really cool. I'm like, there's loads of options, but I'm just curious. Okay, one word, like quick lightning round. All right, I want to go around the table. All right. If you were asked that question, what would be your recommendation for a great starter guitar that maybe let's say sub $400? Okay, go around the room, starting with Mike.
I would go with like a Mexican Strat.
Oh, you took mine.
Did I? Yeah, it's a solid. I mean, I was in the same situation. I think last year, my friend, his wife was trying to find a guitar for him, and she was like, $400, $500 price range, and so I pulled up a Mexican Strat and
Brand new or Craigslist?
brand new. Ooh. And yeah, I mean, but they're out in Montana, so they don't have too many options with
Yeah, I guess
Craigslist.
so.
Yeah, so but yeah, he fell in love with it.
That's cool. Rand, how about you?
I was going to say Mexican Tele just because I think, harder to keep in tune with that floating bridge.
Yeah, the Tele is a good choice, and also the pickup selector is easy enough too.
Yep, that's true. Tony?
Well, I mean, on the upper end of the Epiphone line, I think those are all pretty good. But I think for a good solid starter guitar, I'd go with one of the GNL Tributes, the Tribute series. They're basically overseas-made guitars, but they put American electronics in them. The pickups are all USA. So everyone that I've ever tried or worked on, I found that the Tribute series is solid.
Excellent.
They can do that too because I've seen their winder at the shop there. I took the tour. Fantastic place, by the way. Their winder does like 6 bobbins at a time.
Jeez.
It's crazy.
Wow.
It's kind of like Brandon one.
That's crazy. Jared, what are you choosing?
I got to go back to the Mexican Fender series because I own one and I love the neck of that guitar. I could just play the thing all day. I changed out the electronics and stuff, and I got how I want. But the neck on this guitar, I wouldn't trade it for anything else.
Interesting.
So
I'm going to pull a wild card, and I would say I would go. My knee-jerk reaction is going to say Mexican Tele all the way. However, because of the amazing deals that I keep continuously seeing on Eastwood guitars, I would see about something on there because you can get a pretty dang fun guitar that's going to be well built, and they've got sale prices under sub $400.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is shipped, and I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe they're shipped with case. I'm not positive on that.
I don't think so.
But anyways, they're running deals like crazy all the time. And so that's just a wild card option.
Or you
right?
can go to DH Gate like I do.
Or don't do that.
No. You got to be semi-experienced.
But
I'm just waiting for Tony to get his guitar, and it's going to be the size of a ukulele.
yeah. Now, all that said, what we were talking about, every one of those guitars that we mentioned, you can find on Reverb, super cheap.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
You can find on Craigslist,
Definitely.
super cheap.
Yep.
Go walking right into like Guitar Center, buy a guitar. I mean, I'm not going to say don't do it, but there's lots of other options. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Used is always better than new.
Yeah, it's already broken in and stuff.
Or broken.
Yeah, or broken. Anyway, so I just thought that was a kind of a neat thing. So we're still working that out. Now, I want to hear something from Rand.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 4 on the floor.
All right. We've been waiting for this one. Rand, the purveyor of Mu-Tron pedals. What is your 4 on the floor?
Well, my 4 on the floor, I think, is it comes down to maybe 4 effect classifications that I think I can't live without. You have maybe some sort of, I think everybody has their favorite overdrive or distortion pedal. Would go with my good old-fashioned TS9.
Tube Screamer.
yes,
What a classic.
Yeah,
I have one on my board, man.
Technically, it's an ST9, a super tube, and that's got 4 knobs on it. They were a little rarer, so a lot of them got circulated out in Europe. In the I've got 2 of the 9s, and one came from a effects shop in Amsterdam back in the 90s.
Oh, wow.
And then I have 2 of the 10 versions of that, or maybe 3 that I bought as backups.
And this is the TS?
It's called a Super Tube, an ST9 or a TS9 in the 10 series. So they had the whole JRC 4558 thing going on, but where a 9 feels more just like in that overdrive range, I felt with that the Super Tube with that extra knob, you could kind of get more crunch out of it, and just possibilities, less of that mid-range hump, and you had more
Very cool.
tunability with it. So that's pretty much like the spot there for that pedal. And I always think, I love phasers. So of course I always had my favorite was always the Mu-Tron stuff. I can't, old stuff. I really didn't have much to do with that. Of course, I was like 3 when they were making those things. So,
Right.
so I have a few of those that I got in pawn shops and wherever over the years. Back in the days when I had, everybody had a 6-way strip on their pedal board,
Right.
with wall warts and stuff everywhere.
So which now that's which phaser is that?
Phaser 2 was basically the way it went at Mu-Tron. They had the Phaser 1 was the first one that came out early, and that was an OTA based operational transconductance amplifier.
I see.
Which a lot of people loved, sounded great, but it was too hard to make. And in the process, basically, they went and they had a lot of R&D things that never saw the light of day, but they moved from that OTA to an optical design, and they actually built a biphase before they built the Phaser 2.
Interesting. Well, we're going to get deep into the history and stuff.
I didn't mean to sidetrack, but anyhow, so the Phaser 2 was kind of the lesser model that came after the biphase, and it was just a nice optical one. And back in whatever the 90s, it still seems reasonably sized for a pedal board.
Yeah. Well, it's a gorgeous pedal because it's so odd. It doesn't look like every other pedal.
Yeah, so and the other alternatives, I always had MXR 90s or 100s.
Yeah.
The 100 was a 6-stage optical, but it never sounded as good to me as like with distortions and rat pedals and
right
or whatever Marshall amps. You wanted that kind of deal, and of course I love the Boss ones too, the early PH2s, the green ones.
Nice.
So number 3, I think you got to have I love octave pedals, always have. So I have an old, just beat up, can't even tell, Octavia Tycho Brahe original deal.
That's a good one.
That thing's pretty wicked. So that's a must have.
And that's the coolest name ever. Tycho Brahe.
Tycho Brahe.
I don't even know if I say it right.
I know you are saying it right.
Is that right?
Yeah.
It's like Tycho Brahe.
That's after a night of heavy drinking.
Oh, yeah. And then some sort of delay pedal. So I think I really grew pretty fond of tape delays at one point.
Is this your number 4?
Yeah, I'd say it's
Okay.
my number 4. Can a tape delay be that 4 on the
You
floor?
better
Can I put it on the
believe
floor?
Yeah.
All right. So I really like the Ibanez Echo Machine.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
5 series plastic thing. And they did a pretty good job. It's kind of low grade, so lo-fi.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your 4 on the floor. That is one of our listeners' favorite parts of the show.
That's
as
right.
It is mine. And we're going to have that out there on the internet for everybody. You can go to the guitarknobs.com to see the full rundown and click on those pedals and go get one if you want it. We've got Rand Anderson from Mu-Tron pedals. Now, he mentioned something earlier. It was like, this isn't the gentleman who invented the Mu-Tron pedals, but he is the current Meister of the pedals.
Yes, it's that's what it's pretty much
Is that what your
going
business
on.
card says?
Meister.
It says like janitor or something,
Meister. Yeah.
But I've been lucky. I don't know how we joke about it, Mike Beagle and I, how our fates have intertwined, and but basically was able to end up working together for the last 6 or 7 years at MuFX, and kind of just transferred over and got the Mu-Tron back up and running. And it also includes Mike is working on the design end, as well as Richard from L Sound, who's probably the foremost repair Mu-Tron expert in the United States, if not the world.
Oh,
Wow.
And he worked closely with Mike to develop a lot of the electroharmonic stuff when Mike was making, he was designing effects for lots of folks.
Yeah.
And I've also had the privilege of also reconnecting with both the CEO of the original Mu-Tronics, Aaron Newman, as well as
So that's what it
Henry
actually stands for, Mu-Tronics.
Mu-Tronics Corporation.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes, and as well as Henry Sajak, who was kind of, I would say, he ran the production for Mu-Tron, as well as other companies down the line. They all came from Guild.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
Mu-Tronics was born out of Guild.
I didn't know that.
You never would have thought
Yeah.
that. I never would have thought that.
Well, they had a synthesizer division was starting to pop up, and the guy that was championing it, I believe, ended up in a plane crash.
Yeah,
or something.
Alfred Drong.
Or something, and he was going to do it, and then he went away. It was his project, maybe, and so they wanted to go on with this technology, and Aaron got the money together, and they got the company, and they went down the road. They had the R&D up in New York and the production down in New Jersey.
Interesting.
And it was born. It was born in 72, and I think then, it was this crazy frontier. Digital was just barely on the horizon, and just what was going on the airwaves and in New York City in terms of sessions and players and all that. It was a special time. So
What was the first Mu-Tron pedal?
it was the envelope filter. The phaser one and the envelope filters were the first things that came out. Stevie Wonder was the first endorsed artist in 1972.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, and he used it on a clavinet in the higher ground. So that became kind of a staple sound in funk, was the clav filter deal, like all sorts of funk bands. I tried to put together, I was teaching music for a while at a school now, and I was putting together for the kids just like almost a listening list on funk clav walk, because it was amazing all the music that came out in a short span of time with that.
As a result of that, probably.
Yeah, as a result of that, I mean, it could be, now they have music major disciplines in banjo and folklore music and that, but it's like a clav walk could definitely be a major or something. There's some YouTube you should check out. There's the guy playing a whammy on a clav too, right? And he's got the funk clav with the whammy bar on it. Just amazing.
Wow.
He's like the Hendrix of clavinet. I think he's out of Australia.
That's crazy. Let me see. We have so many questions to ask you. This is crazy.
Well, let's just keep on the history train with the Mu-Tron, because I think the 72, so, and move on. And I'm always finding out interesting stuff from people. Like, I didn't know Ace Frehley from Kiss played Mu-Tron stuff. But some fan sent in a thing here. He's playing this solo from Shock Me in Houston, 1976, 77 or something live.
Wow.
And he's got the octave divider on and the Les Paul and the fire coming out of it. And
Well, of course.
That's cool.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, yeah.
Was there a special Mu-Tron that had fire coming out of it too?
I don't think so. But somebody just bought a something off of Reverb. They contacted us. It was a Mu-Tron 3 that had used the techie certified it all from the Grateful Dead. It was one of Jerry's that they pulled all the parts out to keep his number 1 and 2 units alive.
Wow.
Oh, that's cool.
But I never saw the ending price on it, so I was curious. But he wanted to get it working and repaired in working order. So anyhow, Zappa was a big Mu-Tron guy. He used he had a green ringer. So Mu-Tron actually they had big NASA high end kind of stuff. It's like having Universal Audio stuff on your pedal board back then. It was pretty spendy. So they had a hard time selling, I think, as many units as they could. So they got into making products for other people and trying to get into entry level stuff. So the Dan Armstrong, somebody mentioned the Armstrong guitars, the Lucite guitars, right? So that guy also was designing circuits and making these little modules that would just plug into your guitar.
Yep.
And then you run your quarter inch, or you could reverse the wiring and put it into your amp if you didn't want it hanging out of your guitar.
Yep.
So I'd like kind of really loved the Orange Squeezer for many years out of that series. J-Fed Best compressor.
What was the overdrive that he did? The blue, was it the blue? Oh shoot,
A Blue Clipper.
Blue Clipper.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was kind of a fuzz. I would say it's super fuzzy.
Yeah.
But the Zappa had the Green Ringer, which when I mentioned the Octavia earlier, the Green Ringer was sort of Mu-Tron's take on that, or Dan Armstrong's take rather. He had them originally manufactured by some company in England and then brought them over, and they worked out a deal, and then the Mu-Tron's logo went on them, or the Mu-Tron logo went on them.
So Ran, at this point in time, would you say that like Mu-Tron was trying to like tend towards guitarists or tend towards other like music electronics?
Well, it was kind of evolving. I think, the effects industry, everybody kind of got into it. It got super, maybe saturated might be a word.
Yeah.
And at the same time, digital was on the horizon. You're approaching the 80s. Synthesis, all the MIDI, all the synthesis, right before all this crazy new wave music hit that was going to use all that. I mean, that's where everything was going. And I don't think they didn't know then that people would 25 years later go, oh my God, that's the best phaser ever. They were like, oh, we're not selling phasers. We better make something else.
Yeah. Cause it sounds like like with Stevie Wonder and, a couple of these other guys that weren't your typical guitarists, it sounds like they were kind of expanding the effects area, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
right?
If you look at the actual effects that Mu-Tron's were making, even for guitar and other people at that time, I think is almost like the ADSR kind of synthesis LFO. They were decomposing a synthesizer and modularizing it into pedals in a way. So I think when you put the Mu-Tron pedals together in series, you end up with pretty a monophonic synthesizer sort of vibe.
Yeah.
Early Kansas really reminds me a lot of, of this crazy synthesized sound. And I don't know if they use Moog or Mu-Tron or whatever, but
well, there was a lot, that was kind of the state of the art in terms of maybe what they knew in maybe academic circles, and the research and development had kind of plateaued. So synthesis became the thing. And what happened is Mu-Tron, like in about the late 70s, there was a band, 10cc. They had a song, the things we do for love. The things we do for love, right? And somewhere on that record, they used this instrument. They basically fetched up resonance kind of synthesis deal, and it became known as the Gizmotron. And the guys from that band, they had a hit with it, and they were able to pitch this to Mu-Tron's. And so Mu-Tron's basically outvoted effects to synthesizers. I don't know what the board was at the time. It was 7-5 or something, a split vote. And they went with the producing the Gizmotron. And the Gizmotron pretty much bankrupted them.
Oh, wow.
And it didn't work, and it wasn't what they thought it was going to be, and the whole market shifted. They'd come out with their first rack mount digital delay, but it was all actually manufactured by ARP synthesizers, had bought Mu-Tron's to kind of get them out of
that was
debt.
Like
and
late 70s, right?
Yeah, right around 80. And so they bought the company, and then they went out of business.
Oh, God.
So the guys never even got their parachute. And Aaron had a heart attack. He was 49. He got out of the music business forever, went into other things. I got to meet a friend of his kid at NAMM this year, and I got to talk to Aaron on his 88th birthday. So he told me all these crazy war stories. And they thought the Gizmotron was a hit. They were high-fiving everybody on the plane back from NAMM, and that thing's amazing. Oh my gosh. And
So then,
that was the prototype that worked.
Oh wow!
So then, following them being sold, so Mu-Tron just went silent until.
So yeah, ARP went silent, Mu-Tron went silent.
Yeah.
A couple of the guys kind of went their own directions. Mike, in particular, he went and did started Beagle Sound Labs, and he tried to make a rack mount filter, which he made 50 of them, which were actually probably the best envelope control filter you'll ever get, but they're pretty rare.
What was that? What was that?
It was called the ECF, the envelope control filter by Beagle Sound Lab.
Okay.
So only 50 of those, and then he kind of started contracting and building effects for other folks. But he had designed that in conjunction with a guy named Elliot Randall, and Elliot was the guitar player from the Saturday Night Live band all through like the 70s, Gilda Radner and Chevy Chase, and he also played for Stevie Wonder, and he also played for Steely Dan. He maybe his solos, Hey 19 or Ricky Don't Lose, one of those is him. Mm-hmm. And he's just this really cool guy. They were like best friends. And so Elliot had a big hand to do with development, as a musician, with Mike as kind of the engineer. They co-designed that ECF filter, as well as, getting into some other stuff. And then Mike went and did a lot of designs for Electro Harmonics in the 90s, and then ended up doing RFID tag researches on penguins for down in Antarctica.
Well, that's the next logical step.
Yes.
Yeah.
Envelope filters to penguins.
That's actually pretty cool, man. That is cool.
Well, if you have to deal
when
with
you make
musicians,
this killer rack and there's only 50 of them and nobody wants them, so what else is there to build,
That's crazy. Mu-Tron sets up a big presence, makes a lot of pedals, and then kind of goes silent. Now, anybody that's been buying pedals as of late at the guitar shows or at Reverb, we all tend to want what is either too expensive or that there are too few of. Those old Mu-Tron pedals fall into both of those categories, and often there has been such a resurgence in the old Mu-Tron pedals that we're talking about. I'm just curious, being at Mu-Tron, what do you make of all this? Like, how is this affecting you? And where do you think that this just resurgence of love for that brand is coming from?
Well, it's the reason I'm involved with this. I mean, I was using this stuff in my boards back in the 90s, and it hadn't hit as much of a resurgence, and the vintage market wasn't even there then. I sold my Klon for like $300, but so I had the Mu-Tron, and I always said, well, gosh, I'm tired of running. There wasn't Voodoo Labs bricks on your boards. There was this just dark ages. Everybody had gone from racks in LA to, from hair metal bands and Mesa Boogie preamps and these huge monstrous racks with ADA MP1s and stuff to back to pedal boards. So back to blackface amps and simple Marshall tubes, and we're going to just run some a couple pedals in front of it. Mm-hmm. You had 2 or 3, and you need to have your 6-way strip so you could plug in your Mu-Trons. You had the phaser, and they all had wall warts coming off the octave divider, even the Mu-Tron 3. And I was just like, gosh, this is rough. Why can't this be shrunk down? Why can't the routing was even running from left was the input, and amplifier was on the right.
Really?
So you on a lot of Electro Harmonics and stuff. So you end up getting hogtied on stage, and there weren't even, you couldn't buy a pack of patch cables from anybody, and you couldn't make your own because none of that existed. So you just have this crazy rat's nest in front of you. And we build these boards at Home Depot parts and put them in Tupperware and stack them in the van, and that would be okay. But then, I started realizing we were playing, the band we were playing in Colorado a lot, and on a cold night, the Mu-Tron wouldn't work at all.
Why is that?
So it's an optical deal.
Oh.
And I didn't know why then, and nobody really knew why then, but after I started talking about this stuff with Mike, and see, Mike did a lot of this in the lab, so he didn't really know from like a road standpoint the problems I was seeing. Like you got to plug from right to left. Everybody stands and the flex chain goes that way nowadays, and 9 volt, and they're in the power bricks, and you can't have it. It's got to be negative center. So just little things that made everything work harmoniously. And then pedal supplies had come along, and they were still building. I think he designed the Mu-Tron was like a 24 volt DC input, so that had its wall wart.
You mentioned wall wart a few times. I think for the younger audience, just describe what a wall
transformer.
wart is.
It's a hunkin' transformer by 4 by 3 by 2 inches that plugs into the wall, has 2 prongs,
Right.
and runs a super thin cable which likes to break.
Right.
When sound guys in their cowboy boots like grind their heels on your stuff.
Right. So basically what we're saying is that each one of those pedals essentially had its own, it's a standard big black square that plugs into the wall.
So
Right.
you would get what we call a 6-way power strip, that you see under like a computer desk, and
Right.
try to turn wall warts in opposite directions so they would fit. You could fit more, and
You had to get crafty.
you had to get crafty. But every given night you're tearing your pedal board apart, figuring out, is it a wall wart or is it a broken cable or is the effect itself gone? Because you didn't even have like true bypass, and there wasn't any looper boxes. So, it was quite a bit of capacitance and degradation going on.
Right.
And that became part of your tone. You just dealt with it.
So is there, as you're sitting, in the present state now, I know that you are making new versions of the Mu-Tron pedals.
Yes.
I'm curious to know, before we get deep into that, like, I think we imagine maybe, or at least I do, that you guys are sitting around there, making your pedals, and they're like, what the crap is everybody's going crazy for these old pedals, and they're spending huge amounts of money. Is that expected? Is that a shock? Is it, how are you facing that?
Well, we always joke about it. I'm like, we should just get out of designing pedals and just play the market and just set up a mutual fund and buy and sell pedals and speculate. But I mean, we've really seen it fluctuate, and I mean, we've sold stuff one day at fair market value, knowing good well we're gonna make more and sell them next week when we can get some more built, and people are, sab or whatever, scalping them the next day, and people buy them, and we don't feel good about that. I mean, we say basically, we don't want you to hoard these things. We want everybody to have one, but we are building everything here in the U.S. and it takes time, and we really are stringent on our quality control, because these guys are looking at us as a higher end company and said, well, you've been in business since 1972. You guys must be mega. Right. You're like, no. We went bankrupt in 1980 and we just started back up in 2018, technically. We relaunched as Mu-Tron. Mike and I had Mu effects since 2013. And we learned a lot about the industry then, and the industry sure changed in that time. In fact, I think it was at one of the NAMs, and we had the Mu-Tron filter. We couldn't give them away. Nobody cared about that sound. And then,
Jeez.
John Mayer goes out with the Dead next year. We got, this line of people that want these things. So,
right.
It's just luck and timing with that. But the other, so we developed a Boost-Tron there, which I still think is one of the coolest pedals ever.
That's the one I have. I have one signed by Mike Beagle, actually.
Jared found it out. He's been dying.
Oh, you did? Okay. Yeah. So Mike and I designed that. And back when I had my ghetto pedal board, the first pedal in my chain was always what was called a Stratoblaster. And that came out of Alembic, was a company in the Bay Area in the 70s that they made really high-end basses and stuff.
Yeah,
they were actually...
Those are like $12,000 basses, right?
Yeah, and a really famous blackface preamps and stuff like that, a rack mount that like bass players love. And
boom,
Stanley Clark.
Oh man, that guy's
so the Stratoblaster would go in your Strat jack. You'd take out that, you'd wire this in with a battery, and it gave you a clean boost transistor kind of based, or not the Stratoblaster, but I'm confused myself. But it's just a straight clean boost that a lot of guys, Lowell George from Little Feat was using, Andy Summers from The Police. So you have a blackface Fender amp, you put the Stratoblaster in front, but it really does a nice thing driving your chain. This was before buffer boxes and things.
Cool.
So that would go in, and I would always have these old Mu-Trons and vintage pedals, EH Electro-Harmonics, octave multiplexers, things like that, and they would be super hot. So I'd have to walk back to my amp and turn it down every time I turned one of these on. So I was like, well, maybe put a volume pedal after it, which I like because you can kind of, and or a compressor.
Right.
So I wanted to build kind of my own compressor. So that was where we took that orange squeezer circuit. I'd always had a compressor. I was using the Keeley for a long time, and MXRs and old Ross pedals. So that, and then the third channel on that Mu-Tron was a Rat, an LM308.
Wow.
That could also be set to just almost like an edgy, clean bite kind of overdrive, not even an overdrive, like a clean boost again. So that pedal had the blaster, the effects loop, and then a compressor, and then
squeezer.
The squeezer was so it was a 4-in-1 kind of thing, and almost like a channel strip on your pedal board. We forgot the EQ part, though. I think was the most important part.
That's the switchable, right? You can make it.
It's like a hardwired filter, but we always wanted to redo it with a tone stack there instead.
Okay.
And then the blaster. So we have redesigned a Mu-Tron 2, which will come out and be the successor. But that numbering, it's actually going backwards. That's going to have less features.
I know that you're drawing on some of the old stuff for the new. Do you find that people are they gravitating towards the new ones easily, considering the high demand for the old pedals? Is there any kind of challenge there at all? I honestly don't think so. At one point I was like, we should do like a certified pre-owned thing and get these old ones back and get them factory snuff and maybe even manufacture them looking like the old ones. At the end of the day, I mean, I don't want to really take my vintage stuff out on my boards. I like to build a pedal board I can throw in a swimming pool and replace everything tomorrow. Or a drunk guy spills his beer on it or whatever. But
that's what
remember
really
what
happens,
I said about the cold weather too. And what people don't realize, right? I turned on my SPX 90. Does anybody know what that is?
I think so.
Okay, so it's your nice outboard rack gear reverb for your snare sound in the 90s, 80s.
Oh, yeah.
It was a Yamaha unit. So reverb unit, but I pushed it on. I wanted to use it the other day, and smoke came out of it. So I was like, oh man, I got a cap job. I got all this stuff. You got to keep it going. You got to keep on top of it. It's like a car. You don't give it an oil change, And I think people forget that about this stuff's 40 years old, man. It's not built to last forever. The other thing I learned about the older Mu-Tron stuff is, the fault tolerances are not even the fault tolerances, the part tolerances, the value tolerances of resistors and capacitors on those big through-hole things back then were plus or minus 5%.
Oh, wow.
So on a given day, we might assemble 5 of these, and one of them sounds really good. And the other 4, okay, you calibrate it. But right. I get mine. I don't know any better unless I call those other 4 guys. Hey, come over. Let's put them all together and see who's got the best one.
Interesting.
So today, we're able to make them with plus or minus 0.1% components.
There you go.
Nice. The consistency across units. Oh, right now we've We've got 4 effects in circulation. They are the Microtron 3,
Okay.
which is the Mu-Tron 3 successor optical envelope filter.
Yeah.
And then the Octavider came second, which would have been is our analog octave down plus an octave up ring modulator.
I'm gonna get one of those. I'm gonna get an original one.
Original ones are sick. We sat there when we built this and calibrated it side by side with a fully refurbished 1980 ARP unit. And they were identical at all test points on the scope.
So you can get a new one for a fraction of the price.
Yeah.
And you can take that on the road with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And always get another one.
And these are
it's
small.
cool. I have an old one too, but it sits in a box next to my Octavia.
These are the new ones.
yeah.
The new ones. It's fair to mention that I think one of the things that we love about the old ones is that they're big funky boxes with big funky graphics, but the new ones are all very compatible for modern pedal boards.
Because looking at it, and
Yes.
like what you kind of said, Ren, is that just looking at the pictures here, they're kind of like small form factor, and the hardware is probably more sustainable now too, right? Along with the tolerances.
The old ones are pretty big, and
That's what he's saying.
Yeah, well, like the foot switches. I mean, now
Well,
with
yeah.
today's technology, is probably a little bit more rugged. I guess I don't know if
they're more quiet. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
The old ones, the old push switches they're pretty loud when you press down on them. I've got.
Yeah, there wasn't true bypass on that, It was just and a lot of guys actually liked that bleed that came out of the Mu-Tron 3. So in the new Boostron, that's actually one of the preamp choices.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, so
I think you might have to check
that's
that
going to be
Boostron out. That sounds
what,
awesome.
what we've kind of been doing is just going through. I've been going through a lot of the R&D schematics of all our products, stuff that was in development, and really trying to say what would be useful and how can we translate that to work in this format, and what else would it really need to be better than what just was there. We got to add a feature to make it do a little bit more.
Right.
Do you guys have all the archived R&D schematics and everything from like the 70s?
All the artwork, I have
that's
access
so
to pretty
cool.
much all of that
pretty
stuff.
cool.
Well, look, if you look at the digital delay, which they made one rack mount unit then, and that was like the last thing, and it's got to be like 15 pages of NASA schematics. I mean, you're building your own AD converters back in 19.
Well, that's
I wouldn't do that one. I wouldn't do that today, and that actually has a tape echo vibe to it, but it's definitely a better way to build that.
So is there something that aside from the ones that you've basically brought from the past to the future in the modern form factors that are more sustainable, more rugged, more reliable, is there something that you were working on that is brand new or that hasn't ever been done by Mu-Tron?
Well, yeah, I mean that's first of all, a new trend in the pedal board market is I see these scalable power supplies and pedals. I can put in from 9 volts to 18 volts into this pedal and yada yada yada. So to make these things work, we basically devised because we're here in San Diego, it's a pretty big what would you call it, biomed sort of biotech industry.
Yeah.
And you got Qualcomm down here. It was making all the chips for all the cell phones and pacemakers and stuff. So we've got this medical grade charge pump that's letting us run things internally at 18 volts. And that's why we can have this thing have a 50 milliamp draw and sit on your pedal board.
Wow,
so
awesome.
that's pretty huge. And that's across our whole platform. The next thing that got developed was basically to recreate the phasers correctly. Both the biphase is pretty much, I have it in prototype stage right now. We have a biphase released, but we have a biphase 2 that is now based upon our optical platform. So we've developed our own optical socketed chip, if you will. Intel inside, but it's our actually Mu thing, which makes our analog hardware pedals upgradable.
Oh, cool.
That's super cool.
Yeah. So Mike and I and the other Mu-Tron guys, as well as a lot of other effects people, have, certain thoughts and knowledge about optical circuits and Vactrols and things like that.
I would say Vactrol.
Yeah, I would say that there was a lot of research that hadn't been done.
Yeah.
Because there was off-the-shelf things at the time available, but those companies don't exist anymore.
Right.
So for us to really decompose what those were, and an interesting thing is back in the Mu-Tron, the 1.0 days, the Mu-Tron biphases, they had a sort. They had 12 of these in each unit. They had to sort them and match them. Because we're running these Vactrols outside of the specifications that the manufacturers got on there.
Oh.
So the ones that were left over that didn't match, that's what they built Phaser 2s out of.
Without, I'm scared to ask this question because I don't know where it's going to lead, and I don't know if there's a short answer to this, but what exactly is a Vactrol?
A Vactrol is what makes something optical. You can make your own. There's prepackaged ones,
So
and it's basic. It's a way
pedals
of
and stuff like that.
Optical. Anything you hear optical, it means it's pretty much. They got them inside of Arduinos and things too for light sensors. So basically you're shooting an LED at a light sensor.
Yeah, pretty much at its bare bones, what it is a resistor that's light dependent. So the brighter it is, it changes resistance based on brightness.
It varies resistance, but it eliminates noise because you're not actually passing current, you're passing light pulses.
Gotcha.
So it becomes a less noisy circuit.
We all just learned something right now. I like this.
Yay!
Okay.
All right.
Yay.
I can't wait
Optical
to test
compressors.
I can't wait to test out this new biphase. I've got the gigantic original one at home, and I wanted to make a comment about that. I don't see how anybody else uses those without two different amplifiers that because you could split the signal and, have a left and a right. And I don't want to know what it sounds like through one amplifier because I love the stereo phase effect.
Some guys love to cascade them mono too, but you said left and right, and I actually think the answer is top and bottom.
I think you're right.
There was a biphase deluxe that never saw the light of day, and it actually had presets on it. So the idea is I set my left phase or my bottom phase at a basically the foundation speed would be, let's say, 5, and my top rotor I would set at 7. So now I have the motion of a Leslie where they have two different speeds going.
Yeah,
wild, man.
So they had a brake on it. I could speed them up together, and that's why I love phasers, because I actually used to carry a Fender Leslie cabinet when I would play in bands.
Holy mackerel!
Don't need one now.
So. Oh no, the thing I still have it. I love the things, but the idea was that if I'm going to make a phaser, I'm going to take this idea. So the Phaser 3, we made it so that you can cascade the control voltage. So I could run to one unit and then to the next with one expression pedal. And where I have the rate set on the faceplate is basically the floor of my speed. So then I just run my signal to two different amps, and it's a poor man's biphase.
Yep.
But with foot control, it really acts like a Leslie speaker. If you're playing, like you listen to Charlie Hunter Trio or any of these, like sort of think like a jazz organist.
Right. And I had one more question about the new biphase coming out. Are you guys going to have the little templates that you put over the pedal?
It's the size of a hand.
I know, but you can still make one, right?
For who?
Like I've got the old templates that go over the old biphase. So
hold on to those.
Oh,
those are cool.
Yeah.
We talked about them. I actually have we printed them. We planned on it, but I think maybe so. I think we have them in PDF format, so if people can figure out how to print them and cut holes in
You should make T-shirts out of those, man.
That's a
good
good idea.
For real. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
Well, and just let people write their settings on them too, right?
Yeah, that'd be cool as heck.
Man, Rand, we are super, super stoked that you got to hang out and talk Mu-Tron pedals with us. This has been one that we've gotten so many requests for, and you have a beloved company, and I hope you just continue to...
Motorcycle outside.
That chopper
It wasn't
agrees.
me, was it? Is that me?
Wow.
No.
It was here, the big old motorcycle.
They were agreeing with us. Anyways, hey, we're gonna tail our way out of here, but we've got a couple things that we got to get to first. Number one is Jared's favorite thing in the whole wide
Which
world.
is, ladies and gentlemen, would you rather? Thank you, Tony.
All right.
So, this week's Would You Rather is from a good friend of ours, Jonathan Dudzik.
That's right, Big Jonathan out there.
JJ.
And here's this. Okay, would you rather show up to a gig and play an amp that you've never played but have your number one guitar? So a strange amp, but you have your number one guitar, right? Or would you rather show up to a gig with your number one amp and use a guitar that you've never played before? So you're going to use some sort of strange guitar.
Yeah, that's it.
Is there a Mu-Tron involved?
There could be. But let's focus on the actual question. All right, so let's make sure everybody has this clear. You show up to a gig, it's your amp and a strange guitar, or your guitar and a strange amp. What would you rather do, Tony?
My guitar and a strange amp.
Okay,
Because I usually play strange amps anyhow.
that's true.
There's nothing
But
like
no, the guitar, I mean, is like half the battle.
That is.
More than half the battle.
nothing like strange, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, boy. Mike, how about yourself?
I'd probably go with my favorite amp and then just some random guitar. I've showed up to too many places and they've had some trashy amp there that it's hard to dial in. At least if I dial
Like it had like a bad childhood and like went a few wrong directions. Or,
yeah, and
Lived in a trailer park.
just got back from recovery.
Right.
Yeah. So so I'd probably just go with my own amp and then I'll just bum somebody's guitar.
This is hilarious because no one has ever seen Mike not play his only guitar. So, Jared,
I had a terrible experience when I was like 17. I had my mid 70s Gibson SG Standard like destroyed at a gig. Something fell over it because I was dumb and didn't put it in the case. So I got stuck with a strange guitar, and it was through my amp. But that strange guitar was a single coil guitar, and it sounded nothing like mine. So because of that experience, I'm definitely going with my own guitar and a strange amp.
Okay.
Because it's gonna sound better.
Rand, how about yourself?
I'll go with my guitar and then whatever. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Backline
Pickups.
amp, your guitar.
B bender is pretty important. So
Oh, hey,
There we go.
That's pretty specific.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to go with my own guitar because you know why?
Because it's glittery and gold.
Well, that, but the other reason is because I would probably get stuck with a Strat. So, all right. So let's
a
go.
Mexican Strat.
We're going to thank a few people real quick.
Yes, I would like to, at this point in our show, thank our executive producers. And you might be sitting there saying, what the heck is an executive producer? Well, if you go over to patreon.com/the Guitar Knobs, you can find out at different levels that you can become a patron of the podcast. The very top of the heap, if
Yes.
you will, would be our executive producers. And there's different prize packages that are attached to.
It keeps getting bigger because all
It's
these cool
bigger and
builders
bigger.
send us great
Hey, we got
swag.
this Champion Lecky stuff that just came in.
Gotta
Yeah.
get some of that.
But as an
underwear.
executive producer, Jared, what happens?
you get to have your name right on the thing.
And that's what I'm going to do right now.
Correctamundo.
So
Do
let's
it.
welcome. We'll go from newest to oldest. Why not?
Why not?
Let's do
Let's
it.
welcome on board Mr. John Esterly.
Hey, Johnny.
And what I like about John Esterly, his name when it rhymes with Westerly, which was not the birthplace of Guild guitars, but I guess it was the death place of Guild guitars. Okay, how about let's thank Mr. Christopher Heidel.
That's right.
Hey.
That's right.
How about Ty Harmon?
Yep.
How about Taylor Bray?
Okay.
John Anglin. Anthony Lathrop.
Anthony.
My man.
How about Johnny Knoll?
Johnny.
Stefan Lamb. Rick Langlu.
My
Michael
favorite noodle.
McVeigh. Michael Senchuk. Brian Robison. Jonathan Jerusik. Ken Sayers. Corey Nigro. Brad Partridge. Michael Van Zant. Doug Christ. Darren Gregory. Chris Kearney. Sean S. John Daly. Martin Cliff. And the original Tom Barazin.
That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for helping out our show. We are so grateful. It truly helps keep our lights on. This is a love thing for us. I don't know how to say that properly. It's never going to sound right, but we do this because we love it.
Yes,
we absolutely love it. We love the guitar world, and we love the people that are making it. Thank you for your support. You can enter in at the $5 if you can't swing the.
Do what
the
you
10,
can.
Do what you can.
Do what makes you feel good.
Yes.
That's right.
So Rand, where can people find you?
Mu-Tron.com.
Awesome.
Online. Hey, I really appreciate you guys at the Guitar Knobs and your fan base. So we're going to give out a Mu-Tron Guitar Knobs code. It's Guitar Knobs, and that's going to be a 10% discount. And we really appreciate you guys having us on the show.
Dude, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. 10% off at Mu-Tron, the website, to get those. And how long is that going to be for?
I don't know. I'll leave it up for a while after the broadcast.
We'll sort that out. We'll put that up on Instagram. For those of you who are looking to find this, at the top of our Instagram, where you see our little story deals, the little orange circles, we have one of those that says offers. So we've got a couple offers that are still on for the whole rest of 2019, and those are still available. All you got to do is click it, and that's where you can find all these things. And that's where we will have the Mu-Tron special. Let's see here. Mike?
Yeah, just follow me on Instagram at Native Audio.
Perfect. Tony?
Jared?
Yeah.
Let's just go over to pickguardian.com. Let's say you need a special pick guard, or you want to change out pickups, different things like that. Head on over to the website, and you want to see some of these very special projects that we've been discussing here. I usually post pictures up on Instagram, so go ahead and go to Pick Guardian and the number 1, and you will find said projects.
Awesome. Jared?
Well, if anybody needs an old pickup fixed or some old new looking pickups or new old looking pickups, whatever.
If you want pickups that
Let's
sound
just say
awesome.
you want pickups.
Awesome
if you need
sounding
pickups, go to Jared at Brandon1pickups.com. That's
Perfect.
my email. Go to Brandon1pickups.
There you go.
Brandon1pickups.
You can get a hold of me, Todd, at theguitarknobs.com, or you can DM me on Instagram. We want to hear your would you rathers, so continue to send those in. And ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big giant thank you to Rand Anderson of Mu-Tron for stopping by and hanging out with us. Yay.
That was a pleasure. I love those pedals.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Yeah, it was awesome. He's off to a gig, so we're going to let him go. Everybody have a great guitar week and subscribe! All right.
Tony.
All right.
All right.
Do you have a hamster in there? What is that?
Yeah, Tony. Would you rather?
Oh, Tony.
Which is
Are you talking to me?
Tony.
Do I have a what?
Well, that's it for these knobs. Please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/theguitarknobs. Visit our website at theguitarknobs.com for all of our past episodes, 4 on the Floor blog, and other good stuff. You can connect with us on social too at our Facebook page and share your gear and stories on our Facebook group. Also, be sure to check out our Instagram at Guitar Knobs. Catch you next time.